I've always been drawn to places I shouldn't go. Cemeteries at night, abandoned schools, and one day a forgotten church deep in the woods. I found it the way I usually did, zooming in on Google Earth, marking lonely structures, and hunting them down in person. That afternoon, I parked on a dirt road, hiked 10 minutes through the trees, and stepped into a clearing. The church was still standing, rotted wood, shattered stained glass, and an old stone well sitting right in front. Curious, I leaned over the well. It hadn't been sealed. Just endless blackness and a sound. Click. 2 seconds. Click. Not water. Not an animal. Something sharp tapping against stone, over and over, like it wanted me to keep listening. I tore my eyes away and pushed open the church doors. The hinges groaned, echoing through the trees. Inside, dust choked the air, pews lay shattered, and the pulpit leaned crooked at the front. Behind it, an arched doorway led into a narrow hallway. Splintered doors, cobwebs thick as curtains, and at the very end, a stairwell leading down into the basement. I froze for the first time. A chill cut through me, but still, I went down. I counted the steps as I went down. 7. That's when the wood gave way beneath my foot. Crack! I fell hard onto the dirt floor, pain shooting up my back. My flashlight skidded away, its beam spinning across the room. I crawled to grab it, and that's when I heard it. A voice, high-pitched, childlike, or maybe a woman. Words I couldn't understand, except one. Hello. I froze. My light revealed the basement, broken furniture, stone walls, nothing unusual, until I saw the tunnel, carved by hand, narrow, rough, and from inside, the voice. Louder now, still gibberish, still wrong. I stepped inside, just a little. My flashlight flickered, and I smacked it back to life. The sound echoed too loud, and instantly the voice rose, closer, sharper, then silence. Click. 2 seconds. Click. The same rhythm as the well. But now, it was coming from the tunnel. Getting louder. My chest tightened. I bolted. Scrambled up the broken stays, dragging myself over the snapped step. My flashlight slipped from my hand, but I didn't care. I just needed out. Through the hall. Through the sanctuary. Out the doors. I ran past the well and stopped just long enough to listen. Nothing. No clicks. No voice. No birds. The forest was dead silent. I glanced into the well one last time. Still black. Still waiting. Then I ran, faster than ever, back to my car. And I drove home in silence. No music. Just the sound of my own breathing, wondering if someone or something was still down there. This happened to me some time ago, and it still haunts my thoughts to this day. I've always been the type to enjoy the outdoors with my friends. For the sake of this story, I'll call them John and Anthony. One boring evening, we decided to go fishing in the woods near some farmland. What started off as harmless fun ended with us being chased off by a farmer and his dog. We tried hiding, but the dog tracked us down easily. The farmer threatened to call the cops, but what unsettled us most was that he was already on the phone with someone else, his friend, while yelling at us. The whole thing felt off, strange, but at the time, we just laughed it off, finding it more funny than frightening. For some stupid reason, we convinced ourselves it would be a good idea to go back the next day and explore the property. It was about an hour before sunset, the skies already darkening. The place was massive, endless acres of farmland surrounded by thick, suffocating woods. Even though we'd studied the area on Google Maps, it was ridiculously easy to lose our bearings. A voice in my head whispered that we shouldn't be there after dark. But at first, nothing felt wrong. We admired the horses grazing near the fences, petting them as if we belonged there. Yet even then, something nagged at me. All this land, all this space, and only horses? My uncle's farm was a fraction of this size and had every kind of livestock. Why only horses? I brushed it off, assuming maybe the owner specialized in them. We pressed deeper, pushing through the trees until we reached a fence. John led the way. I stayed in the middle, and Anthony followed behind. That's when we stumbled onto something strange, a decaying old house surrounded by luxury cars worth a fortune. Trophy cars lined up like they'd been abandoned. A broken-down RV sat rusting nearby. The sight left us speechless. We crept among the cars, whispering in disbelief. A Corvette, a Ford Raptor, a Bentley, Porsche, Ferraris, Range Rovers. Some looked gutted, parted out, like they'd been stolen. Suddenly it clicked. This had to be a chop shop, or was a criminal operation hiding in plain sight. John, always a bold one, suggested checking the RV. Anthony kept watch while I held the door for John. He was the smallest and best suited to squeeze in. Inside, we found signs of life, fishing rods, bedding, food that looked fresh. Someone was living in that wreck. Car tires were stacked in corners, like a storage base. Realizing it was someone's actual home, we backed out quickly. Curiosity dragged us further in. We found more side-by-sides, probably used to patrol the land. Then we came across a rotten old shed, and when we cracked the door open, an awful stench rushed out. Something sour, rotten, unmistakably foul. Joking to mask our unease, we laughed it off, muttering maybe it was a body. None of us believed it, or at least we pretended not to. But before we could explore more, the sound of the gate slamming open echoed across the property. Someone had just entered. It was about 1,000 feet away, but close enough to panic us. As we crept toward the tree line, headlights suddenly cut through the dusk. A van was coming down the road. We bolted into the woods, hearts racing, unsure if we'd been spotted. That should have been the moment we left. But stupidity kept us going. We decided to check the far side of the property. More woods, more horses. Then, at last, the main house came into view, broken down and eerie. Beside it sat a massive camper, 50 feet long, covered in vines like it hadn't moved in decades. Nearby, a jet ski lay swallowed by greenery. We forced the camper door open, careful not to make a sound. Abandoned or not, we felt eyes on us. And the deeper we went, the darker it all became. Another shed, another boat, a fridge with a cooler. Joking again, we teased each other about bodies. But when we got closer, the stench hit us, thick, rancid, like death itself. We backed away fast. The woods seemed to breathe around us. Anthony swore he heard noises. We paused, listening, and sure enough, we heard them too. Indistinct sounds, twig snapping, whispers in the wind, or maybe paranoia twisting the forest against us. The vegetation was so tall it nearly reached our heads, but a rock nearby gave us a higher view. John climbed up first. He was laughing, but then he froze, his face pale, eyes wide with horror. He couldn't even speak. My stomach dropped. I climbed the rock to see for myself, and what I saw will never leave me. Through the brush, at a table, sat a man with a black cat perched beside him. But his face was wrong. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, no hair, nothing. Just a blank, featureless surface staring straight at us. And as if that wasn't horrifying enough, there was a woman with him. Unlike him, her face was whole, and she was looking directly at me. And then it happened. The woman suddenly bolted, running fast, in a direction that would cut us off from the property. My blood turned to ice. I kept glancing back at the faceless man. To this day, I still can't decide if what I saw was real. Was it some kind of mask, bandages, medical tape, or was his face truly gone? All I know is that it was blindingly white, stretched tight over a head that looked unnaturally small. That image is burned into me. I'll never be able to forget it. We didn't waste time. The sun had already disappeared, and darkness swallowed the woods as we began our long, desperate hike back. Every step felt like we were being hunted. Shadows shifted where there should have been none. The forest seemed alive with something wrong. The sounds came next, heavy stomping, the pounding rhythm of galloping hooves, and, worst of all, screams. Not quite human, not quite animal. Just echoes of something broken chasing us from the trees. We tried to stay silent, but panic forced us to move faster, stumbling through roots and brambles. At one point we even considered taking a detour, an extra 2 miles through the wilderness, just to escape whatever was trailing us. That's how convinced we were that something was back there. Finally, after what felt like hours, we made it out. We checked behind us again and again, certain we'd see someone, or something, emerge from the tree line. But the woods stayed still, quiet, watching. To this day, I don't know what we encountered on that property. Human? Something pretending to be human? Or something far worse? All I know is this: the three of us swore never to return. And deep down, I know we never could, because whatever lies there, it's still waiting. I went to a quarry in Kinney, Texas, and after what happened to me there, I will never, ever go back. Let me give you some backstory so it all makes sense. The very first time I went, the place already felt sketchy. My friends Josh, Miles, and I had seen some YouTube videos of people cliff jumping there, and when we realized it was only about a half hour from where we lived, we thought, why not? Miles was 17, I was 16, both of us old enough to drive, so we decided to go. The moment we pulled up to the quarry, something about it felt wrong. The dirt road that led there circled the quarry itself, and to the left were these run-down, white metal buildings that looked like oversized storage boxes. To the right was a fence that bordered the rock path leading to the cliffs. We were in Miles's Jeep, creeping down the road, and everywhere we looked were signs. No trespassing. Danger. Blasting zone. And then one huge, hand-painted sign that made my stomach turn. Trespassers will be shot on sight. Now, in Texas, yeah, legally, landowners can shoot trespassers. But no one actually expects it to happen. Still, that sign made me uneasy. We ended up parking in a gravel lot near a crumbling old building that looked like it hadn't been touched in years. Miles shut off the engine, and reluctantly, we all got out and started to walk to the quarry. Halfway down the path, a truck rolled past us slowly. The driver stared at us with a blank, unreadable face. It was unnerving. He didn't say a word, just drove on. For a moment, we thought maybe he didn't care we were trespassing. That gave us a false sense of safety, and we pushed forward. We reached the fence, climbed over, and made our way to the first cliff. It wasn't high, so we started there. 10 minutes in, a massive snake swam through the water below us. That was enough to convince us to try another spot farther down. Eventually, we found a 35-foot cliff. We checked the depth, then spent about an hour cliff jumping, laughing, and forgetting about how creepy the place was. But then we wanted more. We headed to the very end of the quarry, searching for a taller jump, when a black Hummer suddenly stopped on the dirt path. A woman in her mid-30s rolled the window down and screamed, "What the hell are you doing on my property?" We froze. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. I stammered something like, "Oh, we thought this was public property." She wasn't buying it. Her eyes burned into us as she picked up a phone, and I'll never forget the words she said next. "John, get the gun." We stood paralyzed. My whole body went cold. She started driving slowly down the path toward a gate, yelling at us to follow. Terrified, we obeyed, apologizing over and over, promising never to come back. She finally stopped, pointed down the dirt road, and snarled, "The cops are on their way. You better haul us before they get here." We didn't hesitate. We bolted down that road faster than I ever thought possible, piled into the Jeep, and sped away. I wish that had been the end. But it wasn't. Months later, Miles asked me if I'd ever go back. At first, I said no. But then I told him maybe, if we had a bigger group. Strength in numbers, right? So we gathered 5 of us together. This time I drove, and instead of parking near the quarry, we left the car at a church 2 minutes away. We didn't want the woman in the Hummer seeing our car and catching our license plate. We walked down the same dirt road, nerves on edge, when a car stopped beside us. A guy in his early 20s leaned out and warned us, "Watch out for a black Hummer." We laughed nervously and told him what had happened the first time. He didn't laugh back. Once again, we jumped the fence into the quarry, this time heading straight to the second spot, a little more hidden from the road. For about an hour, everything felt fine. We were cliff jumping, having fun, and for a moment, it almost felt normal. Then a silver van pulled up. It parked at the end of the dirt road, about 25 yards away. Not the Hummer, but close enough to make my skin crawl. Trees blocked most of it from view, so we told ourselves maybe it was nothing. But deep down, I was already preparing to run. Minutes passed. Then, bang, bang. 2 gunshots split the air, deafening and close. We froze in shock before instinct took over. The exit wasn't close, 300 yards at least, with about 125 yards just to reach the main date road. I took off first, my friend Aiden right behind me. More gunshots. Closer this time. At least 8 in total. My heart pounded as I ran, and when I glanced back, I couldn't even see who was shooting. But I could feel it, like the bullets were meant for us. We reached the fence, scrambled over, and landed hard on the main dirt road. Breath ragged, legs shaking. And that's when pure luck saved us. The same guy who had warned us earlier was parked there in his white truck. Without thinking, we begged him for a ride. He let us in, and we sped down the road, away from the quarry, away from whoever was hunting us. We ran back to our car, jumped inside, and drove away, swearing never to return. And we haven't.